There's a signal you're sending right now. Every time you talk to a woman you're attracted to, every time you're in her presence, you're broadcasting something. And here's the thing that's going to sound crazy at first. The guys who get chased aren't sending the signal most men think they're sending. In fact, the men who have women pursuing them, texting first, making excuses to spend time with them, they're doing something so subtle that it's almost invisible. And by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what that signal is, how to send it without even thinking about it, and why the absence of this one thing is probably killing your results with women right now. But first, if you're new here, welcome. This channel is all about becoming the kind of man who naturally attracts the life and relationships he wants. So go ahead and subscribe, because what we're covering today is something you won't hear anywhere else, and it's going to change the way you show up in every interaction. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed that some guys seem to have women just gravitate toward them? They're not the loudest guy in the room, they're not performing, they're not buying drinks or fishing for compliments, but somehow women are drawn to them. They lean in when he talks, they find reasons to touch his arm, they text him out of nowhere just to see what he's up to. What's he doing that you're not? Here's what most men get wrong. They think attraction is about what you do, the techniques, the lines, the strategies. And sure, those things can help, but there's something that comes before all of that, something deeper. It's the signal that happens beneath the words, beneath the actions. It's the energy you bring into a room. And the men who understand this signal don't chase women. Women chase them. So what is this signal? It's called self-containment. And before you click away thinking this is some abstract concept, stay with me, because I'm about to break this down in the most practical way possible. Self-containment is the vibe that says, I'm complete without you, but I'm open to sharing my world with you. It's the difference between a man who needs validation and a man who offers value. And women can feel this difference in seconds. Let me tell you about Marcus. Marcus is a good-looking guy, fit, well-dressed, successful job. On paper, he should be doing great with women. But every time he meets someone he likes, the same thing happens. He starts strong, she seems interested, and then within a week or two, she goes cold, stops responding, suddenly busy. And Marcus is left wondering what he did wrong. Here's what was happening. The moment Marcus felt attraction, his entire energy shifted. He'd start texting her constantly. He'd rearrange his schedule to be available whenever she was free. He'd fish for reassurance, asking things like, "Did you have fun last night?" or "When can I see you again?" On the surface, he thought he was being interested and engaged, but what he was actually doing was broadcasting a signal that said, I need you to validate me. I need you to prove I'm enough. And women pick up on that immediately.
Now contrast that with Daniel. Daniel meets a woman at a coffee shop. They talk for 20 minutes. It's a great conversation. He gets her number, and here's what he does. Nothing. Not for 2 days. When he finally texts, it's casual, simple. No paragraph explaining why he waited, no apology, just, hey, I'm grabbing drinks with some friends Thursday at this spot downtown. You should come if you're free. She responds in 10 minutes. Not only does she say yes, but she's the one asking questions, keeping the conversation going. What's the difference? Daniel's signal was clear. I enjoyed meeting you, and I'd like to see you again, but my life doesn't revolve around whether or not you say yes. That's self-containment, and it's magnetic. Here's the thing most men don't realize. Women are not attracted to men who need them. They're attracted to men who want them, but don't need them. And that distinction is everything. Think about it. When you need something, what does that communicate? It communicates lack, scarcity, desperation. But when you want something from a place of abundance, from a place of choice, that communicates value. It says, I have options, I have a life, and I'm choosing to include you in it. Now, before we go further, I want you to do something. Drop a comment right now and tell me, have you ever caught yourself over-texting someone you liked or rearranging your whole schedule for someone who wasn't doing the same for you? Be honest, because recognizing the pattern is the first step to changing it. All right, so let's get into the practical side. How do you actually send this signal of self-containment? How do you become the guy women chase instead of the guy doing all the chasing? First, you have to build a life that doesn't revolve around dating. I know that sounds obvious, but hear me out. Most men, when they're single and looking, make dating their primary focus. Every free moment is spent swiping, texting, planning dates, and when they finally meet someone they like, that person becomes the center of their universe. Here's the problem. When your life revolves around one person, that person feels the weight of that. It's pressure, and pressure kills attraction. So what's the solution? You need to have things going on that genuinely excite you. Hobbies, projects, friendships, goals. Things that make you excited to wake up in the morning, regardless of whether or not there's a woman in your life. Because when you have that, when you're genuinely engaged with your own life, you stop being needy. You stop checking your phone every 5 minutes. You stop planning your whole week around someone who hasn't even committed to you yet. And here's the beautiful part. When a woman sees that you have a rich, fulfilling life, she wants to be part of it. She starts to wonder, what is he doing? Why isn't he texting me immediately? What's so interesting about his life? And that curiosity, that wondering, that's the beginning of the chase. But there's a deeper layer to this that most men miss entirely. Having a life you're excited about isn't just a tactic to attract women.
It's the foundation of genuine self-containment. When you're truly absorbed in meaningful pursuits, when you have goals that excite you, when you have friendships that fulfill you, you stop operating from a place of scarcity. You stop seeing women as the answer to your emptiness. Instead, you see them as potential additions to an already rich life. And that shift in perspective changes everything about how you show up. You're no longer interviewing for the position of boyfriend, hoping she'll pick you. You're evaluating whether she's someone who adds value to your world. That reversal of frame is what creates the magnetic pull. Second technique, create space. This is huge, and it's something most men get completely backwards. They think that the more time they spend with a woman, the more she'll like them. But the opposite is true. Attraction needs space to grow. Think about the last time you binge-watched a TV show. What made you keep watching? It wasn't just the content, it was the cliffhangers, the unanswered questions, the gaps between episodes that made you think about what was going to happen next. Dating works the same way. When you're always available, always texting back instantly, always saying yes to every hangout, you eliminate the mystery. You eliminate the space for her to miss you. And if she never misses you, she never chases you. So here's what you do. After a great date, don't immediately schedule the next one. Let there be a day or two of silence, not as a game, not as a manipulation tactic, but because you genuinely have other things going on. And when you do reach out, make it casual and confident, like Daniel did. The psychology of space is fascinating when you really understand it. Human beings are wired to fill gaps. When there's an open loop, our brains automatically work to close it. When there's a question, we seek an answer. When there's absence, we imagine what's happening. So when you create space after a positive interaction, you're leveraging this fundamental aspect of human psychology. She's not thinking about you because you're texting her every hour. She's thinking about you because she's wondering why you haven't texted. She's filling that space with thoughts of you. And every time she does that, the emotional connection deepens, even though you're not actively doing anything. This brings me to the third thing, and this is where most men completely sabotage themselves. Stop seeking validation through her responses. Every time you text a woman and then stare at your phone waiting for her to respond, you're leaking energy. You're putting your emotional state in her hands, and she can feel that even through a screen. Here's a quick story. I have a friend, Jake, who used to be terrible with this. He'd send a text and then spend the next hour analyzing it. Did I say the wrong thing? Should I have added an emoji? Why isn't she responding? And the crazy part is, the more he did this, the worse his results got. Women would start off interested and then fade away. One day I told him, here's what you're going to do.
After you send a message, you're going to put your phone in another room for at least an hour. Go do something. Work out, read, cook, anything. Just don't look at your phone. He thought I was insane, but he tried it, and within 2 weeks, his entire dynamic with women changed. Because when he stopped needing immediate responses, when he stopped putting his emotional state in their hands, he started showing up differently, more relaxed, more confident, more self-contained, and women noticed. Fourth, and this is critical, be genuinely okay with walking away. This isn't about playing hard to get. This is about having real standards and real boundaries. Because here's the truth. If you're willing to tolerate poor treatment, inconsistent behavior, or lack of effort just because you're attracted to someone, you're signaling that you don't value yourself. And if you don't value yourself, why should she? I'm not saying you should be cold or harsh. I'm saying you should have a clear sense of what you will and won't accept. And when someone doesn't meet that standard, you should be willing to move on without bitterness, without anger, just with clarity. Because the moment a woman senses that you're willing to walk away, that you're not going to chase her, bend over backwards for her, or tolerate disrespect just to keep her around, something shifts. She starts to see you differently. She starts to see you as a man with options, a man with value, a man worth chasing. Now here's where this gets really interesting. The signal of self-containment isn't just about what you do, it's about who you are. And that means this isn't a technique you can fake, it's a mindset you have to build. Let me explain what I mean. If you're trying to act self-contained while secretly being desperate for her approval, she's going to sense the incongruence. Women are incredibly intuitive. They pick up on mismatches between what you say and what you feel. So if you're pretending to be busy but secretly just waiting for her to text, if you're acting like you have options but secretly obsessing over her, it's going to show. The only way this works is if it's real. And the only way to make it real is to actually build a life you're excited about, to actually develop genuine confidence, to actually become the kind of man who doesn't need external validation to feel good about himself. So how do you do that? Start with your daily habits. What are you doing every day that makes you feel strong, capable, and valuable? Are you working on your body, your career, your skills, your friendships? Or are you just going through the motions waiting for a woman to come along and make you feel complete? Because here's the hard truth. No woman is going to make you feel complete if you don't already feel complete on your own. And if you're looking to a relationship to fill a void, you're going to bring neediness into that relationship. And neediness repels attraction. This is why self-improvement isn't just about becoming more attractive to women. It's about building genuine self-worth that exists independent of external validation.
When you're in the gym, are you there because you think it'll get you girls, or are you there because you genuinely enjoy the process of becoming stronger? When you're working on your career, is it to impress dates, or is it because you have genuine ambition? When you're developing skills, is it performative, or is it because you're genuinely curious about growth? The answer to these questions determines whether your self-containment is real or fake, and women can tell the difference. Here's a practical example of what this looks like. I had a client named Tom who was doing everything right on paper. He was working out, building a business, had hobbies. But when I dug deeper, I realized he was doing all of it with women as the end goal. He'd go to the gym and immediately take a shirtless mirror pic for his dating profile. He'd work on his business and constantly think about how impressive it would sound on dates. His hobbies were chosen based on what he thought women would find attractive. The problem? His motivation was still external validation. It was still needy, just dressed up in self-improvement clothing. So we shifted his focus entirely. I had him pick one thing to do purely for himself. No posting about it, no mentioning it on dates unless it came up naturally, no using it to impress anyone. He chose woodworking, something he'd always been curious about but never pursued because it didn't seem cool enough. 6 months later, Tom's entire energy had changed. He wasn't doing woodworking to get women. He was doing it because he genuinely loved it. And that shift in motivation showed up in everything else he did. He became less concerned with impression management and more focused on genuine self-expression. And women noticed. They could feel that his confidence was real, not performed. That's the difference between fake self-containment and real self-containment. One is a strategy. The other is a state of being. Fifth technique, lead with intent but without attachment to the outcome. This is a subtle but powerful distinction. When you interact with a woman, you should be clear about your interest. You should be direct, but you shouldn't be attached to whether or not she reciprocates. Let me give you an example. You meet a woman, you're attracted to her. Most men will either play it safe and hide their interest, or they'll go all in and make her feel like she's already his girlfriend. Both approaches fail. The self-contained man does something different. He makes his interest clear, but he does it from a place of abundance. He might say something like, "I think you're intriguing. I'd like to take you out and get to know you better." Simple, direct, no games. But then, if she says no, or if she's not ready, he doesn't spiral. He doesn't get defensive or bitter. He just accepts it and moves on. That response, that ability to handle rejection with grace, that's one of the most attractive things a man can display, because it shows that his sense of self-worth isn't dependent on any one woman's response. Now let's talk about something most dating advice completely ignores: your internal dialogue.
The way you talk to yourself shapes the way you show up in the world. If you're constantly telling yourself, "I hope she likes me," or "I need to impress her," or "What if I mess this up?" you're operating from a frame of scarcity. But if you're telling yourself, "I'm genuinely curious about her," or "I'm offering value by being present and authentic," or "Whatever happens, I'm going to be fine," you're operating from a frame of abundance. And that frame is the foundation of the signal we're talking about. So start paying attention to your self-talk. When you notice yourself slipping into neediness or scarcity thinking, pause, reframe, remind yourself of your value. Remind yourself that you have options. Remind yourself that you're complete with or without this person. And here's something most men don't realize. Women are doing the same internal assessment about you. When she meets you, she's asking herself, is this a man who's going to add to my life, or is he going to drain me? Is he self-sufficient, or is he going to need constant reassurance? Is he going to chase me, or is he going to be the kind of man I want to chase? And the answer to those questions is determined by the signal you're sending, not consciously, not through your words, but through your energy, through your vibe, through the way you carry yourself. Let me break down what she's actually sensing. When you walk into a room, within the first few seconds, she's picking up on countless micro signals. Your posture tells her whether you're comfortable in your own skin or trying to look confident. Your eye contact reveals whether you're seeking approval or offering presence. The pace of your speech indicates whether you're nervous or relaxed. The way you move through space shows whether you feel you belong or you're asking for permission to exist. All of this happens beneath conscious awareness, but it's incredibly powerful. And here's what most men don't understand. You can't fake these signals with techniques. You can learn to make better eye contact, but if your internal state is one of neediness, it will leak through in 1,000 other ways. Your voice will have a slightly higher pitch. Your movements will be slightly more rushed. Your laughter will sound slightly forced. The micro-expressions that flash across your face will betray your anxiety. This is why internal work is non-negotiable. You can't shortcut your way to self-containment. You have to actually become the kind of man who doesn't need external validation. And that requires doing the deeper work on your self-worth, your purpose, and your relationship with yourself. Let me share one more story before we wrap this up. I know a guy named Chris. Chris used to struggle massively with women. He'd go on dates, think they went great, and then never hear from the woman again. It was a cycle that repeated over and over. One day, Chris decided to do an experiment.
He decided to go on dates with zero expectation. He wasn't going to try to impress anyone. He wasn't going to worry about whether she liked him. He was just going to show up, be himself, and see what happened. The first date he went on with this new mindset, something incredible happened.
The woman started asking him questions. She started leaning in. She started laughing more. And at the end of the night, she said, "I really want to see you again." Chris was shocked. He hadn't done anything different in terms of technique. He hadn't used any special lines or tricks. All he'd done was shift his internal frame from "I hope she likes me" to "I'm curious to see if we're compatible." That shift, that subtle internal adjustment, changed everything because it changed the signal he was sending. Instead of broadcasting neediness, he was broadcasting self-containment, and that made all the difference. So, here's what I want you to take away from this. The effortless signal that makes women chase you isn't about what you say or what you do. It's about who you are. It's about being a man who's complete without her, but open to sharing his life with her. It's about having genuine confidence, not in your ability to attract her, but in your inherent value as a man. And when you embody that, when you truly become that person, you don't have to chase, you don't have to convince, you don't have to perform. You just show up, and the right women will chase you. But let me give you one more critical insight before we close. The journey to self-containment isn't about arriving at some perfect state where you never feel attraction or desire. It's not about becoming emotionally disconnected or aloof. Real self-containment allows you to feel deeply while remaining stable. You can be attracted to someone without needing them. You can desire connection without being desperate for it. You can invest emotionally without making someone responsible for your happiness. This is the mature masculine energy that women are instinctively drawn to. It's the man who can be vulnerable without being needy, who can be interested without being clingy, who can care deeply without losing himself. And here's the beautiful paradox. The more you develop genuine self-containment, the more capacity you have for real intimacy. Because you're not bringing anxiety and neediness into the relationship, you're bringing presence and choice. You're not asking her to complete you, you're inviting her to complement an already complete person. And that invitation is infinitely more attractive than any amount of chasing could ever be. Now, if this resonated with you, do me a favor, hit that like button and drop a comment answering this question. What's one area where you know you've been coming across as needy, and what's one thing you're going to do differently starting today? And if you want to go deeper on this, if you want more actionable strategies on confidence, charisma, and becoming the kind of man who naturally attracts the relationships he wants, subscribe to this channel, because we're just getting started. Remember, you're not trying to become someone you're not. You're trying to become the fullest, most authentic version of who you already are. And when you do that, attraction becomes effortless. I'll see you in the next one.